Hi there, and welcome back to our video series here where I am answering your questions. My name is Megan Sumrell. I am a time management expert for women, and I am on a mission to bring work-life harmony into as many homes as I can. Now, what does that mean? It means that you get to live a life where you feel present in whatever you're doing. You are proactive instead of being in constant firefighting mode, and you have a life that feels purposeful. Now, today's question is one that I hear a lot, and it is this: how can I plan when I have young kids at home? Now, before I jump into the 5 tips that I'm going to be covering to help you really think about how you can effectively plan when you have these young children at home, I want to kind of frame what age I'm talking about here. So any of you that have children know that our lives look very different in different stages and ages of life. So the tips that I'm going to be sharing here today are particularly useful when you have children that are out of true infancy stage, but before they are school age. So we're starting to think, closer to that, maybe 18 months to 2 years up until 5 years old, where if you are home full time with them, you know that you're kind of in charge and you feel like a little bit of a cruise director, right? All day, every day, but then we still have other things that we are desperately wanting and needing to get done. So let's dive into our 5 tips. Now, the first one, I'm going to give you some other resources to help you with this, but it really is at the foundation of everything that I teach inside of my time management programs. And it is understanding the importance, especially when you have young children at home, on why you need to actually think about planning at a weekly level instead of a daily level. So here's what I mean between the differences. So most people today tend to operate in a daily planning mode where you wake up for the day, you try and figure out, okay, what are all the things I want or need to get done for the day, right? And then your mission is to try to check all those off before you go to bed. Now, when we have young children at home, it can feel like this is the right approach because there's a lot of unpredictability when it comes to young ones, right? We don't know how the sleeping is going to be at night. We don't know what naps are going to be like. We're not sure what the weather is going to be like on any given day where maybe you're trying to plan for outdoor versus indoor activities. So we fall into the trap of thinking that to stay flexible, we'll just kind of plan each day as we go. Well, when we do that, it actually can start to create kind of that domino effect of a lot of what I call firefighting or just in time way of planning. Meaning, you wake up for the day, you kind of get the lay of the land, how are the kids feeling, you get a plan in place, but then maybe by 10 a.m. something happens to derail that plan, and then the rest of the day it's just kind of like this domino effect, right? And so then the next day when you wake up, now you're trying to figure out how to accomplish what you'd wanted to do the day before, but now you're kind of readjusting for today. And so it feels like you're constantly in a state of overwhelm because we're thinking in such short time blocks. Now, instead, when we learn the right way to create a more comprehensive weekly plan, what that means is that we get to plan in for uncertainty. And I'll talk about that a little bit more here on one of my future tips. But it also gives us the ability to look comprehensively over the course of a week. What are all the things that need to get done so that we can start to strategically create the right pockets of time to do that? Now, this tip number 1, which is learning how to do weekly planning instead of daily planning, you're going to see the next 4 tips tie into this. Now, if you're not sure what weekly planning looks like, I have a great resource for you. So I give a sample demo of what a basic weekly planning process looks like inside of my app. And you can get my app in either the App Store or Google Play. It's called The Pink Bee. All one word, no spaces. You'll see the hot pink bee there. And the app is just a one-time fee of $1.99, just pays for the hosting. But in there, I break down exactly what this weekly planning process looks like. I highly recommend you go grab that. Now, let's move on to our tip number 2 when you've got young kids. And it is this: understanding the power of routines versus schedules and really leaning into routines instead of schedules. Now, this is my older self wishing I could go back to myself maybe 10, 11 years ago when I was very much thinking that schedule was the way to go with having a young child at home. So when I'm talking about a schedule, In this particular example, I'm meaning really rigid times, right? Breakfast is always at 8:30. Naps have to start at 10 a.m. Lunch has to be at 12:30. When we do that, again, kind of back to number one, we actually start to create such confinement and rigidity that then we cannot accommodate change well. So this is why the second tip is all around creating routines, not schedules. So what do I mean by a routine? A routine here is when you have a set series number of events, tasks, activities, whatever you want to call them, that you are always grouping together in a set order. Now, we all have routines, whether we realize it or not in our lives, right? And a lot of them happen on autopilot. So for me, an example of a routine that happens on autopilot, I wake up in the morning, I walk into the bathroom, I go to the bathroom, I brush my teeth, I put on my exercise clothes. Those are three things. Then I go downstairs, make a cup of coffee, and feed the dog. So that's an example of 5 things that I always do in a set, consistent pattern. Now, the difference might be the time of day in which I do it, right? Maybe one day I'm waking up at 5 a.m. Maybe another day I'm waking up at 5:30, right? So that's the difference of the schedule versus the routine. So when we have young children, having routines is so helpful, not only for you, but for them. Having things that are expected really is a huge win for young children. So for instance, you may have a routine of in the morning, how breakfast goes, what the activity is that you do right after breakfast, and maybe another activity right after that. But one day it may be starting at 6:30 because they've woken up early. Another day, maybe it's not starting until 7:15. So understanding that we can harness the power of predictability for our children, but also sanity for you, knowing that there's going to be a group of activities that are always happening together, but that you give yourself a little bit of flexibility as to when exactly they're starting, or in some cases, what day of the week you may be doing it. You may have some home routines around laundry and cleaning, etc., that maybe one week it's better for you to do it on a Monday, but on another week it fits in better for you on Tuesday. So when we start to marry the routines with the weekly planning, it really puts us back in control of our calendar. Now, tip number 3, and this is so important, is understanding for you, your own personality, for your children, for your lifestyle, etc., how much free space do you need in your calendar? What do I mean by this? Well, some people really like to have a lot of things planned and have very full days. That works well for them and their families. Other people, not so much. They like to have it where they want to know, you know what, I kind of want to have the freedom to go where I feel like going. Maybe I want to go to a museum one day. Maybe I want to go to a park one day, etc. Or maybe I just want to have days where I want to allow us to decide in the moment what feels good. Now, understanding how much free space you need on your calendar, it's very individual, right? I can't tell you how much you need because your home life, your family life, your personality is going to be different from mine. But I just went through this actually with one of the students inside of my top program, where she was realizing with her young child, they like to do a lot of 3-day weekends, sometimes even 4-day weekends, where they have a cabin that they like to go to. And so she was wondering with her weekly planning how to accommodate that. And so we realized it was going to be really important for her to keep Fridays and Mondays open, meaning don't schedule appointments or any have-tos on those days, so that if it is a Thursday morning and they're realizing, yes, we want to go to the cabin tomorrow, they're not having to readjust and accommodate that, right? They've already set out that structure in place. But then if they don't go, now they have the day to work on other things. So again, this kind of knowing how much free space you need also ties back into the weekly planning. A lot of what I teach, no matter how many tips I give, it always kind of ties back to the weekly planning. So I really want you to go make sure that you go take a look at how I lay that out for you inside the app. Now, tip number 4 is when, again, you're doing your weekly planning, it's really important to make sure that you align any of the have-tos, the things that truly have to get done during the week, where you have the most predictability with your schedule. And learning this alignment is what is going to eliminate a lot of stress for you. Now, where you have predictability in your days and weeks, again, is going to be unique to you and unique as you go through different seasons of life, right? Maybe you have a child right now that has a very predictable nap time, and you know 99% of the time they're going to take a nap. Well, aligning anything that you have to do that can be done inside of the house, or even hiring a babysitter during that time for you to go run errands, we want to make sure that we are using those times where we have a lot of predictability and aligning them with our have-tos. Because here's what we want to avoid. We want to avoid spending the time that was most predictable doing the things that weren't the most important. Because what we don't want to have is all of a sudden we're in panic mode and now we're trying to figure out how to get this have to done when we're realizing, oh, I should have done it at this other pocket of time. Now, another type of predictability that you can have, and it's one that I leveraged when my daughter grew out of naps at a very, very young age, is I allowed a TV show every single day that she was allowed to watch. I knew that that was always going to be a great source of entertainment for her. So I could always align the most important tasks that I needed to do around the house, whether it was for work or for home, during those pockets of time, so that I could feel confident that I was going to get them done with plenty of time to spare. But again, if you're not doing weekly planning, it's going to be hard to create that alignment and see your path to success for the week. Now, the fifth and final tip for planning that I'm going to give you when you have young kids at home is, this not so much for a 1-year-old or an 18-month-old, but when they start to get 2 and older, is to actually have some type of a visual clue or schedule that your children can see. That is something that you can review often. I still do this now with an almost teenager at home. And now, I don't have to do pictures and all of that. We just have a little shared 1-week calendar that sits on the fridge. But anything that you can put in place, and there are a ton of great resources out there that are all visual, right? Where you can show, hey, here's what our morning routine is going to be. It's a picture of eating breakfast. It's a picture of cleaning up. Then maybe it's a picture of game time, or maybe you're going to spend 30 minutes doing games. But anything that allows your child to visually see what this schedule is and what those routines are on a daily or weekly basis allows you, the longer you do that, when there are pockets of time where you need to step away and be working on something and your child is, it's a time for them to either be playing or nap time or maybe watching that show, they can visually see what comes after that. It's going to allow them to be more present in the moment. Our kids crave predictability and crave knowing what's next. Uncertainty is a really scary place for a lot of young children to be. So as soon as you can start creating that visual map for them and then referring to it as you're going about your day, it will start to create that ability when you do need that uninterrupted time and they see what they're going to be doing and then what comes after it, it starts to work far, far better for you. Now, I used some of these tips when my daughter was younger. Some of them I learned the hard way. So I would love to help you, hopefully not, beat your head against the wall sometimes the way I did with trying to get the pockets of time that I needed in place. So again, recap on the 5 tips we shared here today. Number 1, I really encourage you to start leaning into weekly planning. Again, you can go watch me demo this inside my app, the Pink Bee, all one word. It's in the App Store and Google Play. Number 2, creating routines, not so much rigidity of time-based schedules. Number 3, really assessing how much free space do you need to build into your plan to accommodate your lifestyle. Number 4, aligning when you're doing your weekly planning, your have-tos with the pockets of your days where you have the most predictability. And then number 5, creating that visual clue or schedule for your children that you are able to lean on and review regularly throughout the day and the week. Now, if you have any question that you would like me to answer here in this series, please feel free to email in at team@megansumrell.com. I've got the link down below for you as well. And I will see you back here for our next video.